And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, from across the Louisiana plain for joining our platform today, where we are steadily elevating the cause of constitutional conservatism, advancing the interests and the efforts of constitutional conservative candidates, and slowly but surely, day by day, draining the Louisiana swamp. My name is Chris.
And I'm Danielle, and this is the State of Freedom, brought to you by Louisiana First Citizens. Hello, State of Freedom warriors. Thank you for inviting us to be part of your day. We are so grateful for you. You're the best listening family anyone could possibly hope for. And we know that we are only here because of your encouragement, your prayers, and your financial support. If you are looking for a way to support us, to advertise with us, or to send us feedback, please visit our website at freedomstate.us. And I know that you all know that Election Day is November 18th. It's this Saturday. Don't forget to get out and vote. As a reminder, you can find our endorsement and amendment recommendations on freedomstate.us/endorsements, or you can just go to our website. It's pretty obvious where to find those. You can send that link to your friends, family, neighbors, anybody you know who is a conservative voter in Louisiana. As we've mentioned before, the people who go out and vote in this election in particular, but always it's true, the tides favor the ones who vote. So let's get out and be sure to vote. And you can also find short clips of the interviews with candidates and other officials from our YouTube and Rumble channel. The links to those are in the show notes and over on freedomstate.us as well. Today, we will be talking with a champion and a true ambassador for the state of Louisiana. It's our Lieutenant Governor, Billy Nungesser. But before we talk to the Lieutenant Governor, let's start with the scripture of the day. Today's scripture is Psalm chapter 149, and it's verses 5-9. It says, "His godly lovers triumph in the glory of God, and their joyful praises will rise even while others sleep. God's high and holy praises fill their mouths, for their shouted praises are their weapons of war. These warring weapons will bring vengeance on the nations and every resistant power, to bind kings with chains and rulers with iron shackles. Praise-filled warriors will enforce the judgment decreed against their enemies. This is the honor he gives to all his godly lovers. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord." This passage teaches us that praising God is a powerful and effective weapon of spiritual warfare to bring down the spiritual forces of darkness that are controlling or empowering evil people who hate God, hate his people, and hate all that is good. And it made me wonder, what would happen if we started our meetings, all meetings, but especially policy and political advocacy meetings, while we're trying to make such change in this very dark world? What if we started them with a time of praising God? I have no doubt that it would make our efforts more effective, because Psalm 103 tells us that angels are listening intently to us who put voice to the word of God. So the angels can do what the word of God says. So, Chris, one example that came to mind when I was dwelling on this morning and kind of getting this revelation is, what if, say, Moms for Liberty, just as an example, began their meetings with songs and scripture readings about how the Lord is the protector of children? That will actually activate his angels to go out and war against the evils that are coming against children. If we want to break the back of corruption in government, this seems to me like we need to be singing praises and declaring scriptures that speak about God's holiness, his sovereignty, and how the increase of his government knows no end. And this just seems like a total battle strategy to me for those who love the Lord.
This is so powerful. This might be the most powerful scripture that you've read in 90 episodes. And it's a revelation that I have just been reminded of recently in my own life. Why do you think it is, Danielle, that the devil is always trying to discourage us, always trying to make us feel despair, always trying to demoralize us? The reason he's trying to do that is because the two things that go when you start feeling demoralized and despairing is praise for God and gratitude. And the psalm that you just read emphasized, I mean, it calls praise not only important in warfare, but praise is the most important weapon of warfare. The praise of our hearts to God. And what do you have to have praise? You have to have deep, sincere gratitude to God. And that's why St. Paul says that when you are in need, you present your supplications and your prayers to God in what? In prayer and thanksgiving. We always begin with praise and thanksgiving to God. Our heart should always be filled with gratitude and praise to God. And those are the most powerful weapons of warfare that we have.
Yeah, and it explains why cancel culture is a tool of the enemy, because he wants to shut us up.
That's exactly right. Through despair and division and demoralization. I swear, Danielle, that type of demonic influence on the spirit and on the soul, its primary objective is to get us to forget gratitude and to forget the importance of always praising our Lord. Because when we stop doing that, when our hearts are no longer filled with perpetual gratitude, and there's so much to be thankful for all the time in every circumstance. I think when St. Paul says that we're supposed to be praying unceasingly, I think what he means is we should be constantly praising God, constantly expressing our gratitude to the Lord for all he does for us each day.
Absolutely.
It's such a pleasure, Danielle, to have Billy Nungesser with us today, Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana. There are a few people who have a perfect skill set to be Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana. He has done so much to attract people to our state, to vacation, to try to bring businesses to Louisiana. Billy has such enormous love for the state of Louisiana and great energy, which is what you have to do his job well. And as I said, few have done better job in promoting the aesthetic aspects of the state of Louisiana. Billy, welcome to our show today. What a privilege to have you with us.
Great to be with you, my friend. Appreciate being here, and thank you for all y'all do.
Yes, sir. Billy, what would you say for the benefit of our listeners who may not understand really what the Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana does? What is the principal role of the Lieutenant Governor in Louisiana?
Well, in Louisiana, they differ across the country. Some have no role, some are over the Senate. In Louisiana, I'm over the state library system, Main Street, Louisiana, the retirement, Louisiana. Tourism is the big one in state parks. And of course, the non state museums under the lieutenant governor. Historical preservation, the historical tax credits, Volunteer Louisiana, a great organization that helps out citizens during, before, and after storms. And in regular times, they rebuild senior homes and wheelchair ramps for elderly. And then most recently, I asked the legislature to move Keep Louisiana Beautiful under our office. So it's a lot of the roles it's all the fun stuff, but it's also a lot of roles that drive our economy, because tourism is or was the fourth biggest industry in the state before COVID. It slipped to number 5, and we're sure we'll get back to climbing that ladder this year, but surely by next year, back to number 4 and even further.
Yeah. What do you think, Billy, are some of the things that y'all are doing to try to get back to that ranking and even better?
Well, during COVID, we met every week on Zoom saying, look, we're going to be competing against every state for the same tourism dollars, and many of them double, triple their tourism budget. So, how do we be the ones at the front of the line to get those tourists to book a trip here? And we talked about, what do we do better than anyone in the world? We throw a party. Well, we throw a parade. So we looked around the country and said, where else do they have parades that we can go and use their audience to get people excited about coming to Louisiana? Well, the first one, the Macy's parade, and then, of course, the Rose Parade. And the naysayers said, that's a lot of money you're spending. Will we get a return on investment? And we really didn't know. But looking at the numbers coming out of those parades each year, we reach billions of people. And we've seen people go to our website, people booking trips to Louisiana in record numbers, because of that super gator float that crawls down the streets of New York. And then the Rose Parade, which we won awards each year with that float and had great Louisiana talent on both. So that was one of the big things to kick off reopening our doors to the world.
Yeah, so you have so really you've reintroduced Louisiana to other parts of the country and our unique culture by going there and engaging them in their states. I think that's quite innovative.
Yeah, well, we're very fortunate in Louisiana. They have so many tools in our toolbox. We never give the Mardi Gras crews or the fair and festival people enough credit. They all work year round, spending their own money to put on these great parades and fairs and festivals. Over 400 fairs and festivals that we have in our toolbox to lure people here from all over the world, whatever their interest is. So we're one state. Other states would die to have that kind of arsenal to promote their state. So we don't thank those families that have worked day in and day out, year round, to put on those great events that we're able to use to promote Louisiana.
Yeah, and it's such a reflection of what you just said is such a reflection of the deep, deep love that Louisiana citizens have for our state and how we strive to protect it and to preserve our culture and to share it with people throughout the country. What would you say, Billy, is the biggest challenge now having served as Lieutenant Governor for a number of years? What is the biggest single challenge, if there is one big single challenge that you face as Lieutenant Governor?
Well, there's several, but right now, crime is on everyone's mind. The bad thing is it's really hurting us in tourism. The good news is it's not just in Louisiana. But there's three things that have been trending, and I'll use New Orleans because that is people know New Orleans. They come to New Orleans and they go visit the rest of the state, and so goes New Orleans. It affects tourism all over the state. Three things in New Orleans have been trending the wrong way for many years: crime, cleanliness, and new attractions. And all indications are if we don't turn it around quickly, it'll be a dozen years to regain our place in tourism for New Orleans as a destination, as a top 10 or 20 destination in the world if we don't turn it around quickly. More people are coming here saying they'll never come back that are coming here, and at least our people that are reaching out to our office and saying, wow, the French Quarter's filthy. Wow, 9 people were held up the night we were there on Bourbon Street, or my cousin was robbed. The stories after story are all negative, and we never saw that before. So it's at a critical point, and I'm hoping the new governor can have some influence to make a real change because it's going to take massive change. We've been talking about it for 20 years, but it's going to take people rolling up their sleeves that really want to see change and make it happen.
Billy, absolutely. I mean, I live in Terrebonne, and it's a pretty quick drive for us to get to New Orleans, and we have absolutely stopped going just because of safety concerns. What do you think it's going to take to turn that around? Are you able to work with LaToya to kind of get things on track? Or
I look around the country. I don't have any good ideas. I go steal ideas from other states that have been successful.
that's a good idea.
And we looked out around the country, and in San Diego, they had an area called the Gaslamp District. It was full of prostitution, crime, businesses were closing, similar to the quarter. Horrible. They did an agreement with the city to manage it by residents and business owners in there. They had an agreement with the trash collector, with the police, and they took over every aspect of managing it. Within a matter of a year, they turned it around and made it the number one tourist attraction in San Diego. So we promoted that to the city. We even had a private investor offer $1.5 million to set up a place outside the quarter with a medical tent and to evaluate these homeless to get them help. That was a great plan. Unfortunately, we thought we had an agreement in principle with her, but it just never got done. I've even offered, not that I need something else to do, but the French Quarter has such a historical presence, and being over the historical museums and all, I offered to work out some kind of agreement to take over the management under the state park system. I would put a park ranger on every corner, a bank of cameras in the headquarters, so we could stop crime when it looks like trouble's happened. I'd put a friendly office on every corner with a vest, says Louisiana Feed Your Soul, with a radio that would be reporting bad activity so the police could get there and help people, tell them don't venture on the other side of Bourbon Street, it's not safe. But just friendly offices like they do in Nashville and places like that to make people, give them the comfort level. I would also close down. There's several bars in the quarter that attract the wrong people. I believe they dope and guns and everything just is a magnet. We need to open up live music, give those business owners an incentive to put live music back in the quarter, something that the right clientele wants to go and see. Because we are losing shops in the quarter left and right because they're not selling anything to the people that are hanging out in the quarter. We got to turn the whole thing around, but we could do it if we had the right team in place to do it.
Yeah. Or do you have, Billy, any opinion you wanted to express about why you haven't gotten the cooperation that you would hope to get from perhaps the local authorities in New Orleans to accomplish these things? Because these things that you're talking about, particularly about the private business, private industry sort of taking over some of these areas and converting them into more productive zones, that seems like a brilliant idea. Why would any leader not see the value in that?
Well, I think a lot of time, well, first off, nobody likes to give up control of things. And I like to see it go to someone that truly cares and wants to fix it. And look, I believe a lot of the officials in New Orleans want to clean it up, but but we've talked about it for 30 years. And here's the problem. There's not a lot of voters in the French Quarter. And it generates a lot of tax revenue from for the city and for the state. But the council members, the mayor, isn't getting elected or reelected by the voters in the quarter. They've got a lot of needs in their district all over the city. That's why I felt making it a historical district, whether we put a state police district down there separately, whether we turn it over to the state parks, but I think a separate designation of the quarter all the way to Canal Street, where we could share a portion of those revenues with that new entity, give a large portion to the city to go do other stuff with, and maybe kick in some state money because it is a great state asset. That could be a negotiable thing that could work for and put a board together to manage that quarter. People that live there and have a vested interest there will make sure it gets cleaned up and stays safe.
I love the example of San Diego's Gaslight District because it just proves that it's possible if there's an actual will to do it, if people put the funding behind it and really just put the energy into it. So I really hope that we can get the right team in place, as you've mentioned, to see that happen because New Orleans has been such a jewel. Like you said, it attracts people from out of state, but it attracts plenty of people from in-state. I mean, I've loved going to music festivals, the French Quarter Festival, Jazz Fest. It's a great way to visit with friends who come in from all over the country. And now people they may not want to come.
You're right. You're right. Listen, I'm telling you, if the trends are, if this continues, and I think we're way past the time when it's critical. And I'll tell you another one. We have a Super Bowl next year. I don't know if we have time other than someone really taking charge to fix the streets, the graffiti, the cleanliness, and the safety. And if we have a Super Bowl with the condition the city's in today, we not only will never have another one, it will be a bigger black eye than a positive for the city. And I just don't see the effort to clean it up right now and make it safe for that big event next year.
That would be a tragedy.
Billy, do you see New Orleans at this point? It sounds to me like maybe it's not, that maybe New Orleans may not be safe enough right now even to host the Super Bowl.
Well, I surely don't believe it is. And, I've talked to some private security firms, of course, looking at their help and guidance for making the quarter safer. It's going to take a massive effort, probably borrowing officers from other sheriffs and the state police. But it's going to take a real effort during that Super Bowl week to make it safe. But we've got a lot of work to do before then, and I'm hoping the new governor, who has pledged to really make that a priority, putting a team together, meeting with people. I met with Boise Biology the other day and laid out our plan for the quarter. He's been tasked by the governor to come up with a plan. So I really think they got some people that really care about the city involved, and hopefully that can shake loose a plan that will work in a short period of time to clean it up.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It's good to know that y'all are working on it.
exactly. I hope it's not something we see like Gavin Newsom did in San Francisco for the visit of Xi Jinping last week, where where they just kind of cleaned everything up and shoved it in the closet. So for 5-10 minutes while the premier
Yeah,
of China
exactly.
comes into town. But it's really the ultimate thing is really like putting lipstick on a pig, and it's just gonna everything new that you get, all the cleanliness is just going to be destroyed the second the guy leaves.
Well, hopefully we can. This is a great time to fast track it, clean it up, and a long-term solution. One of the recommendations I made is if the city accepts state police down there to make it safe initially, till we put a long-term plan that we could implement shortly after the governor gets in office and decides what direction he wants to go, and make that presentation at a later date. At least we'd start stopping some of the crime initially, because surely they don't have enough police in the quarter, and the ones that are there really do care, but there's surely not enough manpower to take care of the crime there as we speak.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, Billy, just based upon some of my own sources over there, there is a very significant attrition rate among law enforcement in New Orleans, rather alarming, actually. So it is very, very important that we get all of this under control. I want to switch gears for just a second, Billy, and ask you about a little bit different issue here. I know that you've worked very hard to try to get businesses to come to Louisiana and to settle here and to employ people here. How does the tax structure, I know you're very familiar with it, the corporate tax structure in Louisiana, the franchise tax in Louisiana, some of the oppressive taxes that are on businesses who settle here, how does that affect or deter businesses from wanting to come to Louisiana and build their lives and their families' lives here in Louisiana?
Well, I think the tax structure, it needs to be fixed. I think, we've got to do some things with the legal system, and we've got to get more competitive. When you look at everyone I know that has been successful building their business here, have moved their residency to Texas or Florida. They've made all their money being here, and now when they go to sell their business, they move to these other states and invest heavily in these other states because of the income tax. And there's a lot of things that need to change. And I'm going to go out on a limb and mention one. And I'm not saying this is the answer, but I look back and I look at what things could have maybe done. And if you remember, Dave Treen had proposed I think it was called the quail tax. I don't like to call it a tax, but a quail fee. And it was 0.005 cents on processed natural gas and fuels in Louisiana that's going up the East Coast. And our congressmen have been fighting for years to get more offshore revenue because it tears up the coast, the trucking, the air quality. We process all these fuels, they use it all over the country, and we don't get our fair share. Well, I don't think we're ever going to get an additional share of the offshore revenue, but we could take it on everything we process. And back then, I think the 0.05 cents per cubic yard or whatever of processed fuels would have brought in $40 billion. So at today's numbers, if you got the chemical industry and all to agree, look, we'll agree to this. Maybe give them the land. Every local government now can take away that tax exempt on their land. Give them the land free forever. Spend a couple billion a year cleaning up the air. What else do you want? But let's start putting that fee on the people all over the country using that process, the trucks tearing up our roads, all those things. We could pay our teachers, our police $100,000 a year to start. We'd be the richest state in the country, and we could get rid of a lot of taxes and things that are implemented. Now, you'd have to get everybody at the table to agree to something like this, and that 0.005 cents would be passed on. Now, there was some discussion back then whether it was legal to exempt Louisianans from paying it, but you could do like Alaska, where every citizen gets a rebate check every year. That'd surely be a nice way to help out our poor Louisianans at the end of the year getting a rebate check.
Well, you know what? It's absolutely the case. And it seems very often when we engage in what purports to be tax relief for Louisiana citizens, very often Louisiana citizens are not seeing the relief. In the way that you're describing it, they would see that relief in the form of direct compensation to them, which is something that I think could be very, very attractive. What is the likelihood, Billy, that this is something that could be tackled successfully in your second term?
Well, you know what? It'd be something the governor would have to embrace, but in the legislature, I think where Dave Treen and my father may have made a mistake. They called a press conference to announce this, and I think the oil field, thinking that they would come after them next, they all lobbied up and killed it. But I think it would have to be something, if it was doable, to sit down with the chemical industry and everyone involved and say, look, this we can give on this end, but this is something the people all over the country ought to pay a little something for what we produce for them. So I always like to sit down at the table and see if you could work something out without trying to ram something, because I do support industry, both the chemical industry and the oil and gas in this state. But I think when there's talk about how far do we go or not go in cleaning up the air and the river and all these things, if we were able to do something like this, the state could actually kick in and subsidy that cleanup and monitoring, cleaning up the air, the water, whatever we needed to do to support those industries by allowing us or supporting some kind of fee on all the things we're sending all over this country.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned just now working with the legislature on this. Are there any other issues under your purview that you'd want to tackle in partnership with the legislature this coming session?
I got a whole list of them, but I'll give you some of them.
I thought you might.
One of the things, since moving Keep Louisiana Beautiful under me and being told by contractors that it doesn't matter, people are going to litter, that we just cut the grass, we don't pick up litter, even though they get paid to pick it up. I'm going to ask the legislature to move the grass cutting and litter money under my office, and we will give out local contracts. And if the local parish president or sheriff doesn't want to do it for the money, we're going to need a little additional money, but we'll get a local contractor and we'll make sure they're doing what they're getting paid for. That's the first thought. We also want to look at a national company that will take over all the interstates, and they use people getting out of prison in your state to give them a job. So that helps. And they gave us a price of $6 million to keep all the interstates clean, whether they can do it for that or not. But that's a start in that conversation. Look, DOTD's got their hands full fixing our roads, bridges. I think some of the things they're tasked to do ought to be taken away from them and given to local government to handle. They can do it quicker, better, and cheaper, and they can make sure the job's getting done. I hate when a state agency tells me, "Well, we don't have the people to oversee to make sure they're doing their job." Well, you don't give out state money to anyone unless you can hold their feet to the fire. And that's something we'll do now that Keep Louisiana Beautiful is under my office. We've seen tremendous improvement in the cleanliness of this state, but we got a long way to go. And we are going to put the paradise back in sportsman's paradise.
Oh, wonderful. That has been one of the biggest issues in the Terrebonne Parish president's race, because the litter, on Highway 90 coming into the parish, it's like you feel like you're entering almost a war zone, especially after Hurricane Ida. It's been disgusting. And we have to do something about it. So I'm so thrilled to hear that someone with a vision and with energy and muscle will be taking this on.
One of the things is we want to have a litter court set up in all the justice of the peace, because we don't want to tie up the courts with litter tickets. But we're setting it up to where you can take a picture of someone littering their license, sign an affidavit. They're going to get a ticket in the mail. If they want to show up to the justice of peace and litter court and fight it, they can. But you're 80% less likely to litter once you get a ticket.
That's awesome.
The other thing we did is you can check out tongs and a vest and garbage bags at your local library take your kids and go clean up in a safe place, a part of your parish. You go pick up litter for a couple hours one day, you're 80% less likely to litter after that. So we're doing everything. We're also partnering with DARE to start teaching about litter when they teach about drugs. So hopefully 1 year it won't cost the state $100 million to clean up litter after the fact.
Yeah. My wife's parents, Billy, as you know, David and Cammie Norwood live up in St. Francisville, and they've commented on the great initiatives that you've had regarding the litter in Louisiana. Really, the first lieutenant governor who's ever taken concrete steps to really do something about it, and they've commented on that a number of times. I like the idea of allowing your office to oversee it and to award contracts to companies, even private companies, to do the work and to get it done. And I'm sure that it would be done. It would be done timely, and I'm sure that they would do a good job. That may be a way to do it, to maybe get it out of the public sector and allow some private companies to compete for the work.
Absolutely. Look, we just want to do what's best for Louisiana, and once again, I look at other states, and they've been taking tasks away from their highway departments and leaving them to what they should be doing, fixing highways, bridges, and roads, and take all these other tasks away from them and give them the local government that can do it better. And whether it's private contractors or local government that have a love and passion for their area, surely we can do a better job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we can do a better job. I'm thrilled to hear that.
Billy, what's happening with this freshwater diversion, Barataria? A lot of our listeners are not that familiar with it. I know it is a top concern and priority of yours. Could you explain what that is and why it is so important?
Uh, well, let's back up. When this project was started, it was estimated to be 250 million. Now it's over 3 billion. They got a waiver of the Marine Mammal Act at 11 o'clock on a Friday night when we know Congress does their dirty work and don't want you to see it. What does that mean? Instead of doing the full study of what it will do to our seafood and our fisheries, they're going to monitor for 5 years after they spend 3 billion. That's right. It's grown to over $3 billion.
That's
At
insane.
what point does the politicians say enough is enough? Look, it was told to me, Billy, we already spent 300 million. We'll have an egg on our face if we stop it now. So that's a good reason to spend 3 billion.
It's called throwing good money after bad.
Well, let me tell you, the Marine Mammal Commission in Washington thinks we're nuts in Louisiana. They commissioned a study by the University of St. Andrews, world renowned for their environmental modeling and testing. And their study came out and said that if we build that diversion, dolphins will be extinct within 50 years. It will kill, I believe it said 50% in the first 5 years. Now, the reason that's important, if you've ever heard the story, Canary in the Coal Mine, if the canary dies, get out because everything else will die. Well, that's what the dolphin is to the Gulf. It's the smartest animal in the Gulf. When it dies, everything else will die under it. And when we opened the spillway in 2019 for that short period of time, we killed more dolphins in the BP oil spill. But they don't tell you about that. The CPRA has spent millions promoting this diversion, gotten every politician to write a letter. What a great thing it is. And let me tell you, it cannot build any land above the waterline. It's impossible. If you open up the river and it does create land, it's below the waterline. So it's not going to lower storm surge 1 inch to the coast. If we took a dredge and pumped $3 billion worth of dredge, we could lower storm surge to our whole coast in our lifetime, lower insurance rates, and even business would say, well, look, Louisiana's doing something. I'm going to take a chance and invest here because that berm's being built. We're getting better every year. Anybody that thinks Louisiana needs a 50-year coastal plan, Bobby Jindal sold that to Louisiana, him and Garrett Graves, because guess what? We're not going to be in 50 years to prove they ripped us off. We should be building elevated ridges and berms, protect the marsh that is left. More than half of the coastal projects they built, pumping a little bit of sand, planting grass, and waving to the crowd, have washed away without even a hurricane. Why? Because the people that are making the decisions to build this stuff are rebuilding it time and time again. They still getting paid. There's no common sense. They pumped the ridge before Hurricane Betsy at South Pass. The only catalyst for Katrina was on that ridge. It's still there. We should not be pumping anything less than 6 feet in elevation, planting trees, and it will lower storm surge to the whole coast. We got a berm certified by the coast, approved by FEMA to lower storm surge. That's what we need to be doing, not destroying our seafood industry.
Billy, the billions of dollars that they want to spend or maybe in the process of spending on this freshwater diversion, I want to make sure I understand you correctly. You're telling me that they don't know even whether or not it's going to produce the results that they want, but they're still going to spend all this money on it?
It's an experience. Yep. They can't even tell you. And look, it's not a freshwater diversion. That's a fraud. It is the second most polluted river in the country. Dr. Solange, who trains dolphins for the military in Mississippi, I went over and testified in Mississippi. Mississippi is going to file suit to stop one on their side of the river because they got studies that show it will wipe out the seafood all the way to Gulfport. Now, he's a scientist specializes in marine mammals. And he says the Dolphins, you'll talk to some of the local politicians that I think they have their hand in the cookie jar, will say, oh, the Dolphins will swim away. The dolphin is territorial. They're not leaving their home just like you're not. And they die a horrible death with sores all over their body because they don't know why they're dying. And we've got a video of two baby dolphins and the mama pushing them to the surface. They're dead because of the opening of the spillway, and it's wiping them out. And it's not building any land and will not lower storm surge. Why are we doing this? It's
Great
absurd.
question.
It's the biggest fraud ever pulled over Louisiana's eyes.
Well, I would love to drag those people before a committee and get them to answer for this. Is there a way that we can stop the spending?
Well, I think what we need to do is reach out to the governor and his new task force on coastal restoration, and hopefully their families not got contracts like a lot of the people in the past. You just follow the money. All the consulting contracts were given out, and like when the governor told me he's following the science, I said, Governor, the problem is the science you're following. Those people are getting rich off of Louisiana.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
exactly.
Well said.
But I think we need to speak out loud. This governor has a chance to stop it and take that money and redirect it that will lower the storm surge in our lifetime.
Do you think he's familiar with it, Billy? Do you think he understands this issue the way that you've explained it?
I've had a meeting with him. I got him to speak to the fishermen, and Jeff did say he would take a look at it. And if the negatives outweigh the positive, he surely would look at changing the course of it, whether that's scaling it back. Because the small diversions that put a little fresh water in the marsh keep the marsh healthy. But a large diversion is not going to do nothing but wipe out our seafood industry and cannot build any land. So hopefully we can put the facts in front of the governor and his task force and change direction. The people, a lot of the people that were driving this train have left CPRA and got them a plush job with some of the companies doing the work. So they're no longer have a real interest in it. So hopefully we can get some of the new people involved to realize this is a fraud being pulled over Louisiana's eyes.
That's incredible. What a tragedy. I mean, the money that is wasted whenever you look at all of the areas that we could be spending to protect ourselves from, like you said, from a storm surge, from hurricanes, and even just to beautify the state and to bring economic development. It's just, I never stop being astounded at just I don't know.
The mismanagement and the squandering of money. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. My statement is we got enough money from BP to save our coast. God help us if we waste it. We will never get this chance again. And while these fat cats are getting rich, we're going to drown like rats along the coast. And they have wasted more money than they've spent actually building sustainable land. They've created a lot of pretty marsh that's washed away because the people that are making decisions really don't care about Louisiana. They care about making a buck.
Yeah. Well, as a coastal parish, I hope you get your way. Now, Billy, let's shift gears for a second because I know we only have a few minutes left of your time. And what I wanted to know was how can our listeners how can citizens across the state partner with you to bring tourism back to Louisiana and to be effective in the work that you're trying to achieve?
Well, a couple of things. One is we're going to start promoting every museum, all 211 in the state. I'm a big supporter, and I tell everyone take one trip a year that you normally leave Louisiana and go see a part of Louisiana you haven't seen. I promise you, you're going to meet incredible people, seeing some incredible things. Look, as Lieutenant Governor, I've learned there's so much here I never learned about in school. Incredible places to eat, attractions, things to see right here in our own backyard. And when you go, you will tell your family and friends and drive more people to go to that community. And if we all take one trip, and then I also ask people, invite your family and friends to come here for the holidays and visit some of the great light things that we do for Christmas, the Christmas parades, all the great things we do all over Louisiana, and have them come spend their money here for Christmas and Thanksgiving. All of that matters, especially for the next few years as we're trying to get the local businesses, these mom and pop businesses back making a living that really struggled through COVID. And now we want to make sure they get back to really making some money.
Yeah, because a lot of them really have not recovered from that. You're exactly right. Well, Billy, what a privilege to have you on today. I've got great admiration and respect for all that you've done for our state as Lieutenant Governor. Obviously, you can't do it all on your own, and many of the things you want to accomplish require the cooperation of other agencies and other leaders in our state. But I know that there are many great things that you will get done in your second term, some of which we've talked about today. Godspeed and good luck to you, and we will continue on watching as you continue to beautify and enhance the great state of Louisiana, sir.
Well, look, thank you, but I want to tell you, it's not me. We have an incredible team of Louisianans in tourism, attractions in the private sector that have such a love and passion for this state. I'm just blessed to be the one to be able to team up with them. They do the hard work. They have all the great ideas. I just get to implement and work with an incredible team of volunteers, leaders, private organizations all over this state that live to make Louisiana better. And that's what makes Louisiana special.
And you've built quite a coalition going forward. Thank you again. Have a great day, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you. Y'all have a blessed day, my friend.
Thank you.
Take care.
Chris, I'd had no idea that he was taking over the litter and the grass cutting. I can't even tell you how big of an issue that has become in Terrebonne in the last couple of years. And I just hope that part of that is like instilling pride in the area back in people. You know, you don't throw trash in a place that you live.
Is it that bad there?
It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. You would think that no one had any respect for any property here. In a lot of ways. I mean, people's personal property, of course, people take care of their personal property by and large. But I've seen people stop at a red light and throw their McDonald's trash out on the street. I'm like, who do you think is going to pick that up? Do you think it magically disappears?
It really makes me wonder sometimes because I see that as well. I'm like, what is the thought process that allows someone to just throw trash out of their car when they're driving down the road? I don't understand that. I've never gotten it. It's a huge pet peeve of mine. But I do think that it's a great idea if all of that work, cleanup, could be put under Billy's office and then maybe contract the grass cutting and the litter out to private companies. I guarantee you, if there is a genuine bid process for those jobs and for that work, not only is it going to be very competitive, I guarantee you the work done is going to be very, very timely, very prompt, and it'll look very different than when typically the state takes on projects like that.
Well, yeah, and it'll be a double blessing because local contractors will be able to beautify their own place. So the place gets cleaned up and it helps develop at least one or two businesses economically. And that the whole thing works together to make the place more attractive as an investment destination, as a place to live.
It helps in every front to take the work out of the public sphere and allow private contractors to do this work. It's just It just makes complete sense to me. Of course, anytime you live in a state that's run by bureaucrats, many of whom have never held a job in the private sector, they perhaps do not understand the benefit of that or don't want to give away the largesse and give away the power. So it could be a battle, but boy, if that could happen, it would help us in every area of our state. You're exactly right.
It would. And I think, he mentioned accountability for contractors as well, which is another huge concern. And so obviously there would need to be some significant oversight by the local government. But I would hope, and frankly, maybe his office, should take some little tours and see where the funds, are the funds being used properly, just to make sure, because I'm so ready to see our place, Louisiana generally, taking pride in the place that we live again.
Absolutely. And we can. And Billy gave me some hope today that he's got some wonderful ideas and plans going forward. So God bless him. Well, Danielle, I don't ever like to end our show without thanking our many listeners to the State of Freedom, those who support us and subscribe and share our program. We would not have the voice that we are developing to bring important issues of constitutional freedom and conservatism to the forefront if we didn't have the support of our listeners. So thank our listeners to the State of Freedom. If you can hear me now from the bottom of my heart, it means everything to us.
It does. And if you would like to support us on the State of Freedom, you can do that at freedomstate.us or through P.O. Box 861, Berg, Louisiana. And you can do the same for LACAG, as we're supporting constitutional conservative candidates who are not only running on, but putting their money where their mouth is in terms of legislation, in terms of voting, the way that truly values-based voters or values-based legislators vote. And they can do that at lacag.org. And the P.O. Box, Chris?
The P.O. Box is LACAG, LACAG, P.O. Box 64952, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70896. LACAG is changing the complexion of the state legislature, returning it to the citizens of Louisiana. So many citizens in Louisiana, Danielle, feel as though they have been ostracized and alienated from their own leaders and have become very disillusioned. We are changing that by supporting and advancing the cause of constitutional conservatism and constitutionally conservative candidates. We've made great progress already. We're changing the complexion of the state Senate. The state legislature will be even more conservative than it has been in the past. And most importantly, we are holding them accountable for remaining faithful to the interests of the people who voted for them and elected them. Our membership fee is $22 a month. That is the cost of 4 cups of coffee at Starbucks in a given month. You could not possibly invest $22 any more efficiently or any more wisely than joining as member LACAG, and we encourage you to do so. You will help us to continue to make a very big difference.
Yes. And before we leave today, I'd like to mention an opportunity that maybe you've heard of before, but if you're a new listener, if you're interested in investing in precious metals, or you already are investing in precious metals, or even maybe interested in starting a home-based business in the precious metals industry, I'd love to tell you about Metal Stacks. It is a precious metals collectors club where you can buy your precious metals at the best prices on the market, which is actual dealer cost. And you can refer people to Metal Stacks as well for an additional income. If you are just interested in purchasing precious metals, you can visit metalstacks.com/dwalker. That helps me out. I get the commission. And I just have to say that Metal Stacks retail prices are extremely competitive. They're beating the big sites. They have no credit card fees and no minimums. If you are interested in also learning about the business aspect, you can just email me directly at Danielle@freedomstate.us.
A tremendous investment, Metal Stacks, a tremendous opportunity going forward. Well, Danielle, as always, it's a pleasure to be with you today. I know, by the way, what episode is this?
This is episode 90.
Episode 90, rapidly approaching 100. Probably will get to 100 before the year is out. And with each episode, with each day, with each guest, And with each expression of courage, we each day are taking another step to preserve the grand state of freedom in Louisiana.
Yes, indeed. Bless you, Chris.
Bless you.
Thanks for listening to The State of Freedom. To stay on top of all the calls to action we mentioned today, just check out the show notes for the episode. If you'd like to support the show financially, visit our website at freedomstate.us. If you'd prefer to give by mail, you can send a check to The State of Freedom, LLC at P.O. Box 861, Berg, Louisiana 70343. If you own a business in Louisiana and are interested in supporting our show by advertising, please email us at info@freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lacag.org, LACAG.org, or email Chris at chris@lacag.org. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe and share it. Give us a 5-star rating in the reviews. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time.